The case of JonBenet Ramsey, a 6-year-old pageant queen who was found dead in her basement on December 26, 1996, is still unsolved to this day. Though her body was found in her own home, investigators were never able to come across a confident conviction of who killed her. The morning of December 26, Patsy Ramsey found a 3-page ransom note stating that a small foreign affair had taken their daughter but would give her back at the cost of $118,000. Without any regards to the note stating that if Patsy or family would call police or talk to anyone, that JonBenet would die, Patsy immediately called police and family friends. Police soon arrived minutes later and started their investigation, which we now know contaminated the crime scene. 7 hours later, Detective Lindsay Arndt decided that she would get family statements later and search the house now. Not to mention that the first place that they had failed to investigate was the basement, and it was also the first place that John Ramsey decided to look for his daughter. In the basement, he then found JonBenet under a white blanket with duct tape over her lips, a string tied around her neck, and cloths around her wrist as well. It was concluded that she had been strangled to death. When it comes to the two theories of who killed, when it comes to the two categories of theories that who killed JonBenet fall into, it goes into the family or an intruder. Being the 9-year-old brother and being in the home at that time, Burke had a theory against him as well. According to RollingStone.com, Werner Spitz, a forensic pathologist, believes that it was Burke with the flashlight in the kitchen that is pictured in the crime scene pictures. The support to follow this is that in the autopsy, JonBenet had pineapple in her stomach, and parents claim that they did not feed her pineapple. However, the night before, but after dinner that evening, Burke had a bowl of pineapple with his fingerprints on it. Crime Scene Magazine also, crimescenemagazine.org also releases the theory that Werner Spitz had. He believes that after Burke's pesky little sister came downstairs and stole a piece of his pineapple, and out of annoyance and anger, he grabbed the flashlight, hit JonBenet in the back of her head, causing her to go unconscious. And after this, investigators looked into, there also had been a 8.5-inch gash in JonBenet's head that fit the flashlight perfectly, and there had been 2 dots on the back of JonBenet's lower back that run consistent with one of Burke's train toys. Burke was not the only family member in that home. Lead detective Steve Thomas believes that Patsy Ramsey had accidentally killed her daughter. In the documentary of Who Killed JonBenet by Michael Phil, he states that there might have been an accidental explosive encounter in the bathroom after the 6-year-old had wet her bed. He believes that Patsy picked her up and threw her onto the counter, causing her to go unconscious. And out of panic, Patsy staged the kidnapping. She wrote the ransom note, put the strings around JonBenet's body, and covered her with a blanket. Now, the evidence behind this is that Patsy had to write 5 handwriting samples in order to be cleared from writing the note. Both Burke and John were cleared from writing the note. However, investigators could not deny or confirm that Patsy wrote the note, but FBI analysts Donald Lucy, Gideon Epstein, and Larry Ziegler are all confident that she wrote that note. And also at the crime scene, it was a makeshift crime scene. The cloth around her wrist was loosely tied, not enough for a 6-year-old to be captured by it. And there had been a makeshift garrote with a paintbrush and a piece of cloth. After the autopsy, they concluded that she was first blown to the head, causing her to go unconscious, then strangled. More evidence, tying it to Patsy, is that DenverPost.com writes that the body was presented nicely, and usually murderers do not have time to present the body in a way. Detective Lindsay Arndt also states that Patsy when she arrived that morning that Patsy already had her hair and makeup done, and she was still in the clothes that she had worn to Christmas dinner that evening before, almost as if she had never been to bed that night. Now, when it comes to the intruder theory, veteran homicide detective Lou Smith is confident that the parents are innocent and that an intruder came in and killed John Bonet. Due to the broken window in the basement and the suitcase under, as if it had been a way out, John Mark Kerr, out of the blue, confessed to killing John Bonet in 2006, so 10 years later. He claims that he was in the house, sexually assaulted her, strangled her with what he could find, and staged the kidnapping to throw police off. Evidence against this is that RollingStone.com states that years later and months before his arrest, John Mark Kerr had been emailing Professor Michael Tracy at the University of Colorado Boulder about the interaction that he had with John Bonet, but in a graphic and sexual way. It was obvious that he had a fascination about the 6-year-old. So when it comes to why these people were arrested, starting with Burke, parents claim that he was asleep and they had no evidence otherwise. No evidence of stating that he was out of his room any other time of the night. Burke was also cleared from not writing the note. And when Detective Werner Spitz released his theory about how Burke killed his sister, or how Burke might have killed his sister, Burke immediately sued him for $150 million of defamation, which investigators say is not usual under a guilty conscience. So why was it not Patsy? In the book Perfect Town, Perfect Murder by Lawrence Schiller, the DNA was believed to be a man's, and not to mention that when Mary Lancey replaced the district attorney of Boulder, Colorado, Alex Hardman, she publicly exonerated each family member, stating that they were all innocent and no crime and no charges would be against them. And Patsy sadly died in 2004 to ovarian cancer. So why was it not John? Evidence that goes against the the intruder theory in general, is that in the window, John Ramsey had claimed to break that window earlier that year and not that evening. It also states or shows in the crime scene video that there have been cobwebs in the windowsill, which is not common when you slide a whole body through that without picking up cobwebs. And after interviewing John, they found many gaps in his story. There's no proof that he was in Boulder, no proof that that was his footprint, and of course the DNA did not match his. However, he was arrested for possessing child pornography. 24 years later, still no one knows what happened to the sweet and innocent pageant queen. Investigators were never able to find that last missing piece of each theory that came across. Still today, we will never know whose DNA, why Patsy was dressed so early that morning, and whose handwriting was on that note. Are there any questions?